Men of Reddit, what are your abnormal, vegina stories? Welcome to Total Reddit, keep your eyes on Total Reddit. One night stand, her vagina looked normal from the outside, but her pelvic bone had some kind of odd rounding, so when I stuck my dick in doggy style, no issue, when she rode me reverse cowgirl, it like hooked onto my dick and straight up hurt. One time I was so excited to be ducking my long-distance boyfriend that I was too wet. That had never happened before, so I go to his bathroom and try to dry up my vagina. I took a clean washcloth and tried to make it a small dick shape to shove up there and sop up my extra excitement. I guess it's the closet thing to a guy coming embarrassingly early for a woman. Yeah, sorry I made a sticky mess so quickly. I was just really excited and it felt really good. He said it was very flattering. I dated this girl for a while and time to make with the 6 rolled around. I love to go down on a woman, so that was the first thing I did to her. One of her lips down there was long. I mean like 3 to 4 inches long. The other one was normal sized, but when I got the long one in my mouth I honestly thought something had fallen into the bed and gotten between her legs. I stopped and did a little investigating, and when I looked up at her she was crying. I asked her what was wrong and she said she had been stressing so bad about me seeing her long lip and freaking out or making fun of her. I immediately assured her that all was well and that if she was into it I would like to continue where I left off. This cheered her up and she indicated agreement, so I went back to work on her and we had a wonderful night. I miss her, she tasted like white chocolate covered mango, definitely the most amazing tasting girl I have ever been with. I have no idea how she did it, but a FWB years ago could. Like, eject what I left in there. Like hork. PTOO, someone explain this madness. It was probably the most insanely funny moment I've ever witnessed in my life. She could also fist comfortably, if she relaxed. But then could flex enough to claim to feel my heartbeat through my pen. This has happened to me. I didn't know about it until my husband pointed out that it didn't smell right. If you insert tampons properly, most women can't feel them. If the string gets up in there so you can't feel it, and you happen to be irregular, like me, from the Myrna, so you don't necessarily use tampons often, forgetting can happen. I was absolutely mortified, but my gyno knew exactly what it was. It seriously smelled raunchy. I have no idea how I didn't smell it myself, and she said that it is actually really common and not to worry about it. Probably more psychological than anything to do with her actual vagina, but she wouldn't let me go down on her because she said it tickled too much. She was a virgin, and wanted to keep it that way for religious reasons, so we were experimenting with oral, which she'd also never tried. Every time I tried to touch or lick her she burst into laughter and pulled away from my face. Her stomach, breasts, neck, legs, were all fine, just her vagina was ticklish. I feel pretty confident about my batch. It looks neat enough and stuff and does its job well, so the only thing that really makes me worried are gynos. My friends always go on about how they get complimented by their gynos, like they'll say that it's so weird how their gynos will say they have a beautiful uterus and lovely cervix and shit like that. I've never gotten anything like that, so I'm guessing my cervix and uterus are sub-par. Fugly cervix. When I was in high school, I dated Cindy, who was pretty hypersexual. It ended up being a large part of why I broke up with her. We'd be on the phone chatting about school and our friends, and she'd bust out with, "Guess how many fingers I have in my pussy?" It was always 4. So later on in our 20s we reconnected. She was at my house hanging out, and my roommate came home from some convention or another. He had gotten a red rubber bouncy ball, about baseball size, that lit up and flashed when you bounced it. I looked at Cindy, and started to say, "You know, I bet you could." She had already started unzipping her jeans and said, "Only if you put it in." So, roomie standing there, she dropped her pants and parted her legs. I smacked the ball to get it flashing, and slid it right in with zero effort. Her lips closed around the ball and bulged a little. It lit up from the inside and looked like an ambulance had just pulled up to tend to some kind of vulva emergency. When it stopped flashing, she just kinda pooped it out. I was grinning, and my buddy just stood there slack-jawed. Finally he muttered, "You have a really nice pussy. Thank you for that," and walked away. Couple of I dunno, abnormal seems like a harsh word, but interesting stories. One girl I was with was an insane squirter. Just off the charts. I touched her clit for no lie, less than 5 seconds, and she just pushes me away and loudly says get some towels. I was wearing a Fitbit at the time, and took it off after a minute because it's splash-proof, but not ducking waterproof. Another woman, little older, just had a vice for a pussy. If she went full bore, it ducking actually hurt. I asked her how and she said decades of horseback riding. God, that was a fun night. Finally, one woman had an goddamn oven between her legs. I know the vagina is usually the warmest part of a woman's body, my wife has pleasant warmth. This lady, put my dick in her and instantly recoiled. Like, are you okay? Does this fever require hospitalization? Got used to it after a bit, but very unusual. Yeah, I've been on the other end of that. My wife is always clean and fresh and I enjoy my time down there. One weekend, she took me away for my birthday and after driving for a couple of hours we got to the hotel. Evidently, she had also been wearing some kind of stockings. We immediately head for the sexy time before dinner, but when she peeled off the tights, I immediately suggested a shower, and we went from there. In 10 years, it's only happened a couple of times, which I find impressive considering what you ladies have to deal with. A year or so ago I met this girl off Tinder and we hit it off straight away. Like, went from exchanging pleasantries to smut chat in less than 5 minutes. She lived nearby and wanted a FWB so I obliged. I drove over to her house and she was a little bigger than her photos indicated but I didn't mind. She was cute and horny. Anyway, we get down to business and I started fingering her. She was super aroused. I inserted 1 finger, then 2, then 3 and she was happy. Then she grabbed the back of my neck and stared me in the eye and said, in an aggressive tone, I want your whole hand in me. Okay. 4 fingers. Then the thumb and suddenly her snatch just gobbled my hand up like I was feeding a horse an apple. I've never fisted anyone before so I thought it was pretty neat, punching her cervix like that. So did she. We saw each other a couple of times and shit always got weird. This goes back to my freshman year of high school, the day I lost my virginity. This was the first girl that had ever touched my junk or that I was physical with beyond kissing. I was 14, she was 16. She was dog-sitting someone's house so that was where the deep would be done. I pulled down her pants to reveal a 100% never trimmed bush. Since we were still experimenting, I wanted to try going down on her. As I got closer the smell was definitely throwing me off, and as soon as my tongue touched her lips I started gagging. I did it for all of 6 seconds before I decided I couldn't do it. Slipped on a condom, came in seconds and that was the day I lost my virginity. But man, oh man, that was a terrible first experience at eating pussy. Female here. This isn't always a hygiene issues, as vaginas have a very sensitive pH that can be thrown off by using the wrong soap, underwear, tight clothes. You name it. There's also a condition called BV that requires antibiotic to clear it up. It's not an STD, just an increase of bad bacteria. I have no doubt that it probably smelled horrid, but she may not even realize it if it's been that way a while and she got used to it over time. When I was in the army I dated this girl whose vagina sucked. I don't mean it was terrible, I mean it literally sucked. I was going down on her and as she was coming from it her vagina inhaled and tugged at my bottom lip enough I felt it. It startled me and I pulled back a bit. She didn't notice, but I sure did. I'll never forget that. Edit. Yes, this is 100% true. I met this girl off of Tinder, we go out for dinner then back to my place. One thing led to another and she on my bed and I go down her. As I'm fingering her I feel something odd in there. Not wanting to be rude, I assumed it was a diaphragm, female condom, or some other lady product I don't know about. A minute goes by and I feel something wet, and not good wet. So I accidentally pull it out. It was a used ducking condom. Night ended right there. Never have had a more intense mood swing in my life. I dated a woman who had a noticeably large, loose vagina. This was a bit of a shock to me, because I didn't even know such a thing existed, Prior to her, the V-ginas I'd encountered had ranged from problematically small to pleasantly snug, and I thought expressions like tight and loose were either purely figurative or indicative of the man's endowment. On one memorable occasion we were having sex and I thought I felt something else in there. I stopped and felt around and discovered a tampon. Not only did she have room to accommodate me and a blood-engorged tampon, but I didn't even notice it right away. I call it lightbulb vagina. I've discussed this with other male friends, who've confirmed they've experienced it too. Essentially, you get several inches of regular vaginal canal, then it sorta opens up towards the back, like a cavern. If you have any kind of length to your wang, you'll go from nice caressed feeling for the first 3 to 5 inches, only to feel the tip of your pen suddenly discover a hidden, spacious tomb. I imagine the cross-section of this would look like a light bulb, hence the name I gave it. Not really a personal abnormal vagina story, but funny nonetheless. My wife never really watched porn and never experimented with women. She'd never seen a vagina other than her own. Until she got the book of one of the former Playboy bunnies and Hugh Hefner's girlfriend, which contained some risque photos of said former playmate. To which she came up to me, pointed at the vagina, and loudly exclaimed, "What is that?" I then had to explain to her that vaginas varied pretty wildly in their physical appearance, inner labia lengths, clitoris size, etc. She was genuinely shocked and surprised. She was 24 at the time. She saw her first vagina that wasn't her own at 24. Still shocks me. Once dated a girl and went down on her after while pretty drunk after the second or third date. I remember going down on her and it smelling different. Went down on her the next date while not drunk and immediately realized I made a mistake. I wish I could say that I powered through, but the smell was unbearable. I lightly gagged, quietly collected myself, and kind of kissed my way back up in what must have seemed like a fake out to her, but it went unquestioned, and we had some stale sex while I pondered just what I was going to do with this one. After remembering reading a couple of threads about similar experiences and it ending up being BV, I decided to be a gentleman and the next day I gently told her there was something going on downstairs that needed her attention, or the attention of a medical professional. While I'm sure she was mortified, she thanked me for my candor and concern and said she would make an appointment with her gynecologist. She went on a round of antibiotics and we went on a few more dates. After her antibiotics were through, I tried again. Still heinous. This time I powered through. Gagged a few times. And broke up with her a week later. I tried. On our second date I went down on her, all was well. When I was done I noticed some nasty boils all around. Great, I am going down on someone with herpes. Nope, turns out she had a nasty seafood allergy. We're actually married now and have a good laugh about this. Edit, we started the night with the fried tofu. She had the pad thai, I had the catfish cooked in the clay pot. What can I say, it was true love. Funny story. Second girl I date in my life. I'm an average size guy, I'm pretty happy with what genetics gave me, but for this girl would have never been enough. She had this bucket size vagina. I felt so small and insignificant that I almost burst into tears. But she quickly shushes me during my desperate about to cry face and proceeds to grab my hand in the middle of the act, close it and shoves it in. I ended up fist ducking her for the next 25 minutes. She was a leg shaker with a bucket size vagina. Unduckin' believable and unreal. Went on one more date with her and was great until she ended up tossing at me the fact that you ain't cutting it. Ice cold lady. Dated a girl for a few weeks and the first time we had sex she got incredibly wet. Now, I understand this happens and it really was a turn on, but I had her bent over doggy with me standing on the edge of her bed. All of her wetness was running down my legs in a river. By the end there was a big puddle on her carpet I could just hear my feet sloshing around in. I was like, Jesus Christ. Are you okay? Can I get you a Gatorade? I have a great story about this. Met this girl at a bar and went back to her place. It was after she worked a double at a restaurant. This is important to the story. Things got hot and heavy and clothes started coming off. It was a normal hookup and then came off the underwear. All of a sudden the room filled with the thickest, muskiest stench. It was so pungent that it was like you could cut it with a knife. I remembered back to when this girl said she had just gotten off a double. I worked in the industry so I get sweating. Powered through the stench and went home after. She was a cool girl who I wanted to see again, so in the next few days we made a proper hookup date and I went over to her place, but this time she hadn't worked, so thought we were all good. Things got hot and heavy and everything was normal up until the underwear came off. Same thing happened, room filled up with the muskiest stench. It was kind of choking, it was so bad. I'm a pretty comfortable guy to be around and I'll say anything, so I said to her, "Hey, I don't want to be rude, but I really think you have something going on and you should get that checked out." She admitted that she smelled it too and told that she would get a doctor's app the next day. Powered through again and then left. Next day she goes to the doctor and I get a call from her. Turns out like a month ago she was drunk and put a tampon in, not realizing she already had one in. She was starting to suffer from TSS. She told me had I not said anything she probably would have ignored it some more. And that was the day I found out I saved the girl's life by telling her that her bag stunk. TLDR told a hookup about her pungent aroma, turned out to be an old tampon, saved her from worse TSS, perhaps a lifesaver. Met a girl I really liked and I was sure we would end up in a relationship. After a few dates we had sex and I felt nothing. It was a strange sensation and I just brushed it off, first time with her and everything. Well, it happened again and again and again. I saw how my dick penetrated her, but it felt like ducking a space void of pleasure. I'm not saying that she was loose or anything, in fact we always needed lube and some time to get going. I've been with quite a few women before and after, but I've never encountered a situation like with her. It sucked because she knew that it was only because of the sex when I broke up with her and wanted me to explain what the problem was. That ain't something you wanna hear. Dated a girl that had two of them, side by side. She filled me in before our first time, explained she only used one of them and she'd have to help guide me in for a landing, so to speak. I honestly thought she was just bullshitting me until the first time I had to grab her a tampon and she reminded me she needed two. And she used both of them. You'd never have known there was anything different about her, she was absolutely gorgeous and looked perfectly normal. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe for more updates.